Hello. I wanted to briefly summarize my very, very robust thoughts on the Guild Wars 2 beta that I was in earlier today. I'm pretty sure it's over now. I played 2 blocks, and I gave 1 block to Matt, actually, because I wanted to see what he thought. And so these are pretty much my thoughts, and his thoughts are pretty much mine, but in only 15 minutes of playing. Whereas I played for at least 2.5 hours. You can see my other video that has my entire first hour of gameplay on it. It's kind of long. It's a lot of me talking about things that I have no idea what I'm doing. But, imagine that, right? So, first we have the Reverend. The Reverend could be really cool, but the problem is I don't know how to play it yet. There's no established play pattern, and there's nothing really in the game that tells you how to play it. And being a new class, everybody was playing it. So the same skills you were using, everybody else was using, and none of us knew how to do it. So that's kind of broken. Not only that, for some reason, ArenaNet decided to change the armor from something that made sense. Instead of like Berserker gear, or maybe Knight's gear, or even Soldier's gear, that's something that could do damage, they decided to give you something that really can't do damage, which is Celestial's gear. So you can think about it in terms of, instead of putting most of your stats into attack power, they evenly distributed all of the stats across all attributes that are possible. And I think there's like 12 different attributes you can pick, and so all 12 were picked. And so instead of having a pool of 1,000 go into 3 attributes, you had a pool of 1,000 go into 12. So in other words, it was kind of useless. So Reverend could be really cool. It's really hard to judge, though, if the enemies were really difficult, if their AI was better or not. It's somewhat tricky to tell. And until we actually have some, learning overall, we're not going to find out. It's kind of boring to play Reverend, too, because you don't really know what the skills do and what combos to use. And for some reason, a major thing is, yes, Reverends can dodge, but if you don't dodge and you get stunned, apparently there's no stun break. There's no way to break a stun, whereas on other classes it's not too hard. You just use one of your utility skills. So that's kind of weird. So then I also have listed here the events on the map. They were basically the same every single time. It was guide an NPC to a place, and if you actually managed to get the NPC there, then guard the NPC while they're there. So there's an escort mission and a guarding mission, and overall I'm not going to say that was very fun, because it wasn't. It also is really hard to see if you've actually contributed anything. For some reason, if you do an event, there's this map-wide counter that would increase by some percentage, but it didn't feel significant enough to matter. Kind of a shame. And because of that, it was really hard to get a feel for what other things were happening in that map. This is just the beta, and maybe they have a lot of things not on or enabled, but in the beta that was shown previous to this, there was also this small dragon fight, Rivern fight, whatever. And in this fight, you fought a dragon, but in order to do that, you needed to have hanging gliding enabled, which we'll get to in a minute. But this dragon fight could have been really cool. I didn't get to experience it, but if it was actually in this beta, that would have been a lot of fun. That would have been a unique event. And the game definitely needs some more unique, flavorful events, and not the same cookie-cutter, guard this place for X reason, where the reason is irrelevant to really me. Not necessarily my character, because we're the commander of the pact, but to me, the player. So what else? We've got, since there was little exposure to many events that were doable, because as a Reverend, everything was so difficult, you pretty much lost most of them, unless enough people were there. Because there was so little exposure to events, I couldn't get a lot of XP to level up my masteries. I don't think I actually even did it in my 2.5 hours of gameplay. I didn't level up a single time. To compare with that, in the open world, if you were playing for XP, you probably could level up twice in 2.5 hours. In the regular open world, if you were doing, if you were in ore or if you were in silver waste, you could easily do that. So because I couldn't actually try any of the masteries, I can only tell you about what I saw other people doing who actually managed to get some events done. I'm going to guess also that those people weren't Reverends, because the Reverends couldn't deal a death damage alone, so they couldn't solo events or complete events. So I saw a bunch of people hang gliding, and I think that's really cool. And that's it. So to hang glide, you jump off a cliff. Apparently a button will pop up on your screen. You can click it, and you'll pop your wings open, and you can just go and hang glide all around, I guess. That's cool. I like the idea. We'll see if it works or not in the long run. There were some places that you could see that were not accessible that you wanted to get to through only hang gliding. You could see those places. There was like something like a skill point / something available. I don't know what it was, but you could see it. You could get it. But I couldn't do it because I didn't have hang gliding, because I couldn't level up because the Reverend was so weak. Okay, so that's cool. There was also all these mushrooms. I think speed boost mushroom was one I saw, and a jumping mushroom is one I saw. So, hey, look, there goes a guy. Does he want something? No. So, I saw those two types of mushrooms, and my initial impression was to go and click them. And when you click them, nothing happens, except you are assaulted by some red text that says, "You don't have that unlocked. Go away." And I think that's extremely unfriendly. And I know that masteries are the new horizontal progression, so, not making you stronger, but letting you do new things through new gates. I get it. But even if that's true, even if you have no mastery in using the mushroom, for example, the speed boost mushroom, instead of not letting you use it at all and denying you with red text, just let it speed boost you for 15 seconds. I don't know what the masteries are calibrated to, but instead of using, like, the level 1 mastery, just take whatever that is, double it, and then give us the baseline of half. The jumping one, instead of being able to jump all the way up to the next level, just let us handle it, the way we want to. And I think that would be really cool. I'd be pretty impressed with that if they did it that way. It would be more flexible and more friendly. So I would be a big fan of that. Why just disable the jumping mushroom when you could actually jump on it? Maybe not high, but a little bit. So we'll see. And finally, the map in general. It's a huge map. It's really cool that it's so big. There are some deep holes that may or may not be endless, but I think they are, because if you fall in them, you eventually reach a dark place that you can't get out of, and you have to revive at a waypoint. So, I guess there's that. But because the map is so hard, and it's so big, and there's only maybe 5 or 7 waypoints, it's really stressful, especially as a Reverend, but probably as any other class, about how to get around and how to do well. In fact, the map is very similar to Karkaland, also known as South Sun, and the new maps, Dry Top and the Silver Wastes. Very difficult maps that have enemies that can kill you because they're better than you. And I find in ore you can live and it's okay, but here you can't, and it's annoying. So I feel like we'll probably fix that going forward. We'll know how to do things. We'll know how to counter enemies better. The play styles haven't been established yet, but it's extremely difficult right now to get through this map, just to explore it, just to enjoy it, because everything can kill you and ravage you just so easily, and it's a huge shame. And finally, I want to mention just if it was fun. Um, not all betas are fun. Sometimes you play the beta to, decide if it was, buggy or if it were exciting and enjoyable. Kind of enjoyable, kind of not enjoyable. There was, all of the stuff I just mentioned, but there weren't really any major bugs that I experienced. Some people in map chat were talking about some mastery bugs, but it's really hard to tell because the UI is so difficult to understand that I don't know if it matters in the long run. It was cool to try. It was kind of weird to have it separated into 3 blocks of 2 hours each on the half hour, with an hour break in between, I think. That is kind of weird. I don't hold it against them too much. I'm sure they want to see, like, who sticks around, and I actually have no idea why they would do that. I just don't know. So, overall, I guess it was cool to try. I'd like to come back to do another beta in another month, in June, late June maybe, to see if they have fixed any of these problems, but also, more importantly, maybe to try the more exciting, potentially, specializations. We didn't even get to see the Reverend specialization, but I think the specializations will be more baked than the Reverend, because the Reverend's a new class, whereas the specializations are kind of narrowing the focus of your base class. So those are my thoughts on today's beta for Heart of Thorns. It was just one map, Verdant Brink. I only played as the Reverend. That's pretty much all I know about it. Matt's opinions on this were about the same as mine, so you can see that. You can watch me fumble around in the other video if you want. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching me in the Shiver Peaks, and have a good one, and watch out for Thorns.